you guys? This is Kicking It with Blair, and today we have George Falkowski. He's going to give us some insight and share his story on being a sports reporter. George is a four-time New York Emmy winner and has extensive experience working as a TV sports reporter and host. George has worked with News 12 New Jersey and a 2.5-year run with Chasing News on My Nine.
Keep cooking. Excuse me.
Okay. Hello, George. Welcome to my show.
Hi, Blair.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm really happy to have you here. Let's get started with you telling the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, I know you because you were a student of mine at Kane University in my media performance class, and you did really well. I have to go get the grade book if you want me to tell you what you got as a grade. I think it was at least a C+. She was pretty good. I'm a Kane University graduate. Of course, it was Kane College back then, which is kind of cool that I'm back helping teach the next generation. I went on to get my master's degree at Emerson College in Boston, which was awesome. And when I moved to Boston, I wound up getting my first full-time TV job, which was, ironically, since I grew up in New Jersey and rooted for the Yankees, I ended up working for the Boston Red Sox and the Boston Bruins for 10 years. And I got to be honest, that was awesome. I got Red Sox stuff all over the house now because, I'm the only guy I think that loves both teams because of the history and stuff. And I was up there 10 years, did get one Emmy nomination. No, two Emmy, whatever. I got a couple of Emmy nominations when I was up there. Left Boston in 95 to work at Sports Channel New York, which is now MSG2 or MSG Plus. It's the same crew. They just kind of merged the networks. And in 95, I was actually working with the Mets, the Nets, and the Devils, and I was able to cover and work the Devils' first Stanley Cup. I left there and went to News 12, New Jersey. It was brand new at the time, and I was hired as an anchor and a reporter for sports. But I also ended up doing feature stuff in an emergency, like a bad weather day, snowstorms, Sandy. I would do news coverage. I did everything. And I was there for 18 years, and that's where I got my 4 Emmys, which was kind of cool. Was laid off, as TV goes sometimes, right before the holidays in 2013. Not cool. And since then, I've been teaching, and I started my own website and kind of a little front and a little logo there, yogeorgetv.com, where I would continue to do work for the internet and show my old stuff, which was kind of fun. And then out of nowhere, in 2017, I got a call from a friend that used to work at News 12, who worked at a show called Chasing News on My Nine. Bill Spadia, the host, he's also on 101.5 every morning if you got your FM radio works in your car. And they needed a sports person. And I went in and they found that I could do news and I could do features and I could host the show if Bill was out. So I got to host the show a bunch of times, and that was exciting. And I was there about 2.5 years. I was just let go in March. That's the TV business. And then unfortunately for the friends I left behind, the show was canceled in late June. Probably had as much to do with the virus as the ratings. It's hard to do live news when you haven't got the facilities to do it. But it's been a fun run. Still teaching at Kane. Hopefully, if the virus goes away, I'll be back in the fall. And also at Raritan Valley Community College, teaching speech and media. So I think that sums it up. Is that boring or good? Did that go okay?
No, that was good. That was interesting. So how did you know you wanted to be a sports reporter or host?
Well, I didn't, honestly. And you probably remember the story from the first day of class, is that I was always a sports fan growing up, but I wanted to be an art major. Okay, I was going to be an artist. I did cartoons in high school and before that, I filled notebooks with them. I do caricatures of people. People loved them. I was all set to go be an art student. And I got to Kane University, and I did not realize that college art people are not like normal art people, like when you're in high school. And I didn't realize you had to buy all your stuff. And art professors, I think, and I love them, they're all a little weird. And I totally was not prepared for what I was getting into. And to make a very long, boring story less boring, I failed basic drawing as a freshman. And I dropped 2D design, so I wound up with a 2.0 and 9 credits and no major. And kind of wandered around campus for a couple of years and took a lot of electives, and my grades started. I took less classes, my grades went up, I was working part-time. And then I found out they had a communications department. I was going to transfer to Boston. I wanted to go to college up there at Northeastern. I got accepted at Northeastern in the journalism department, but my parents gave me the bad news. They couldn't afford it. I was not happy. But I found the major. It was called Speech Theater Media then. Now it's CMJ, Communications Media Journalism is what they call it at Kane. And I took broadcasting, I took voice, I got on a radio station, I was writing for the paper, I did a cartoon strip for the paper, figure that out, a failed art student. I did a sports column for the paper. And because I went the fifth year, I always say 5 years for smart kids, I ended up getting my first two internships. One was at a little TV station in Newark, and then I hooked up with a guy named Stan Fischler, who I'm still friends with to this day. And it was the first year of the New Jersey Devils, and I went to meet him, and it was this whirlwind. I'm in the press room for the first time with a media pass. I don't know what's going on. And he basically asked me two questions. He said, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I write a paper, write for the paper. I watch sports. I read your column. I watch the Devils." He goes, "When do you start?" And there was no money in it. There was zero money in it. And basically what you did is you brought Stan to games and brought him home or drove his friends home. But while you were at the games, you were meeting people, you were interacting with players and professionals. They found out I could draw. I started doing caricatures of the players. That worked out great. They opened a lot of doors. In fact, I'll show you something real quick. Stand by. He sneaks over here and count to five. 4, 3, 2, 1. The failed art major ended up illustrating a book.
Oh, that's cool.
For Stan. It's called the Flakes of Winter. There's one of my cartoons on the cover. So if you look it up on Amazon, it's still there. I did a whole bunch of like wacky little cartoons.
Wow.
That was a funny story about a goalie that somebody put a lobster in his bed with him when he was sleeping. And it was whatever. It's hockey talk. But, so it's been great. And I went to graduate school a year and a half later. Landed at New England Sports Network. And then they found out I could write. And then they found out I could interview. And then they found out I could edit. I never got on TV though. That was the problem. In Boston, late 80s, early 90s, if you weren't from Boston, they were not going to put you on the air at a Red Sox network. That was the way it went. I didn't get it, but I did everything else. Wrote the story, did the interview, edited the story. Then I would hand the script to you, Blair, and you would read my words into a microphone, and the story would go on the air, and the boss would come down and look at me, and then he'd look at you, and he would say, "Great job, Blair. Here's 4 times as much money." And then I finally left, and then I got to be on the air a little bit at Sports Channel, and I turned that tape into a job at News 12. So apparently I can be on the air, so it worked out.
Right. Throughout your work experiences within this field, what would you say was your best memory?
Wow, there's so many good ones, but they also tend to dovetail with the bad ones because of the hours we work and the commitment it takes, and nights and weekends and missing birthdays and anniversaries and stuff. Best one, it might have to be, just off the top of my head, the Devils' first Stanley Cup championship in 1995, because if you're not a hockey fan or you don't know the history, when they moved here from Colorado, they were one of the worst teams in hockey, and the franchise had always been one of the worst, and then they continued to be one of the worst teams in hockey, but they slowly started to build and make some smart trades and sign some good players, and so they went from the worst, like one of the worst teams in the league in 1983, and then literally 12 years later they were winning a Stanley Cup, and I was there covering it. I was in the locker room after the game and got pictures with the cup, and still cover the Devils and work the Devils to this day. A lot of the students know that I bring you guys out to Devils games to meet, see how TV works and journalism, and also go in the Madison Square Garden MSG truck to see how that goes. And if you haven't gone yet, Blair, what are you waiting for? It's a blast, and they really get to see in about 6 hours what my career has been like. And but I think that first Stanley Cup, there's been a lot of cool stuff I've gotten to do, and a lot of cool things I've gotten to see, and people I've met and still know to this day. But that first Stanley Cup, that was pretty cool. That was really cool.
That sounds cool. Were you ever nervous interviewing the players?
Most of the time I would say no. I'd say 99.9% of the time I would say no, because for some reason I have an ability to just look at a player as a person, or a politician, or a business leader, or whatever. And when I meet them, I don't go like, "Oh, Mr. So-and-so, oh, no, bow down. It's the old Wayne's World. I'm not worthy. I find that if you treat people normally, they respond better, because they're so used to getting fawned over and spoiled and this and that. And if you just talk to them like a regular human being, I think they appreciate that. I did know I got nervous once interviewing a pitcher for the Yankees named Ron Guidry. For old-time Yankee fans, or you can look him up, he was this skinny kid from Louisiana who was barely on the roster and almost quit, but his wife talked him into staying in the game. And 3 years later, he became the best pitcher in baseball. When I was in high school, there was no more fun guy to watch pitch than this guy. He was like 5'10", 160 pounds, threw 97 miles an hour, and struck out guys, and won a couple of World Series. And so it was kind of like, and so when I finally met him, I actually caught myself going, "Oh, I'm interviewing Ron Guidry." And then, and then when that gets into your head, you got a problem. And then the other one is, you see this poster back here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a John Wayne movie. That's his last film. It's called The Shootist. A lot of you young folks don't know John Wayne. Look him up. Great actor. He's getting some bad press now with the airport in L.A., but he was an icon of America, and my dad watched him and I watched him. And I love his movies, and I still watch and enjoy his movies. And so one day I'm at News 12, New Jersey, and one of the little side things I did there was I would be the introduction voice for the talk show at 8 o'clock. Jersey's Talking was the show, and they'd come and say, "Can you do it tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can do it." And you go and go, "Hey, tonight on Jersey's Talking, Blair Barber," and then and then Blair would come on, and then whoever. And it was one day I was there very early in the morning to do some stuff, and I was very tired. And the host of the show came by and said, "Hey, can you stick around for the show?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've been here since like 8 o'clock this morning, man. I want to go home." He says, "Well, it's really too bad." He says, "Because, the son of one of your favorite actors is going to be." I'm like, "Yeah, who did you get?" And he literally says, "Michael Wayne, who is John Wayne's son, who produced many of his films later in his life." And he was there to promote the John Wayne Cancer Institute, which raises money for cancer research. John Wayne died of cancer. And I'm like, "I'm staying." And so I get out there and I get my script, and I'm like, "Tonight on Jersey's Talking, the son of the famed actor John Wayne, producer, director Michael Wayne, and then this person and that person." And so there's a break, and he comes over to say hello, and he shakes my hand, and he has that same squinty-eyed smile that his father had, and his big hand, and he sticks it. And I'm like, "Yeah," I go, "I loved all those your dad's movies. The one, it was a horse, it was a pad, West," and I just forgot the name of every movie that John Wayne ever made.
Right.
I was completely freaked out. And then I'm like, The Searchers, which is, by the way, one of the best films of all time. The Searchers, look it up. So I got totally I got caught being a fanboy on that one. That was pretty funny. But Michael Wayne was awesome. He eventually passed of cancer too. But the work that they did to raise money for cancer treatment and for people that can't afford it with the John Wayne Cancer Society, unbelievable. But those are the two that I distinctly remember totally losing it and not. Your mind just goes blank. It's like he made a movie, I think.
Right. And my next question, winning an Emmy Award. Now that's quite an accomplishment. Can you tell us what all went into you winning the award, and how did you feel when you did win?
Oh, I think the best part was when I took a picture of you holding one.
Yes.
She's got that. You ask her to see it. I still have it. She's like striking a pose. Emmys are funny because I never really thought about it early in my career. You just did your work, and all of a sudden, when I was in Boston, we started submitting for Emmys, and I got nominated a couple times for the work I did as part of the crew. And you got a nice certificate, and you didn't win. And then I came to New York, and I got nominated for an Emmy on Midnight Basketball, that program they have in New York City, and I didn't win. And so it's like, oh, whatever. And then all of a sudden, 2000 came around, and I submitted again. I had done this very long story. You can see it on my website or on YouTube. It's called the Passaic Wonder Team. It's about a high school basketball team at Passaic High School that between 1919 and 1924, they won 159 straight games. And it was really in-depth. It was something that news generally doesn't do. News stories never go more than 90 seconds tops. This one went 6 minutes. And it was on the Sunday night show, so it was good. Had a lot of old footage and music. And the coach's name was Coach Blood. And I just wanted to do a great long-form story. And I did, and I didn't even know they submitted it. And all of a sudden, I got nominated. And I went, and it won. And it was so mind-blowing because we were at the Emmys in New York City. And there's a lot of noise, and the guy gets up there and he goes, "Well, we're doing this sports feature, whatever." And he says, "We have 2 winners." And I'm like, "Oh man, if I don't win now," there's 4 people, and then my odds are 50%. And he says, Bruce Beck, Channel 4. And I'm like, oh, now I'm in trouble. And everybody's cheering, and all of a sudden I hear, and so I'm like, what? And it was me. So there's this great picture of me at the table looking like, what? And my wife is there, and my kids are there. Not my kids, but my other friends are there, and they're all like this, yay. I look like I'm dumbfounded. Well, it's because I couldn't hear. But when I went up to get it, they hand it to you, and you're just looking at it. And then you have to go down the stage and then sign for it. And I'm still not sure it's mine at that point. So they take the book and then they turn it around and you have to sign. And until I saw my name, like right there, and I was able to sign it, then I believed it. And then 2 years later, I got 2, which was mind-blowing. And then I got another one in 2007. That was the last one. But yeah, I got 4 and 1 Edward R. Murrow regional. That one for the Passaic Wonder Team story. Like I said, it's on YouTube. You can see it. It's very humbling, and it's also a lot of work that other people did. So it's always good when you win an Emmy and it's your Emmy, but the people that helped you get it, the photographer, the editor, the producer, if they can also share in that, those are the best ones. I got 2 solos, but I also have 2 that I shared with people. And I think those are the best. So like Blair, if you were my photographer or you helped me edit the piece in the special edit suite, you deserve one too. And so a couple of times people were able to win as well. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's an awesome experience. Lastly, can you share some pointers, some do's and don'ts for those listeners that are interested in pursuing this career field?
Well, and I know you heard these speeches in class, and you're going to smile because you know what's coming.
Yeah.
Media, I was trying to describe this business to a friend who has never done any of this stuff, and talking to her, and I said, the great thing about it is you get to travel, you get to meet people, you get to cover major events if you want to do news, or if you're a weather person, or if you're a sports person. I mean, the only thing I haven't covered is the Super Bowl. I've been to the NBA Finals twice. I've been to the Stanley Cup 8 times, covered the World Series with the Red Sox. I've done college football, with Rutgers and Princeton, and I've covered college basketball, been to the Final Four with the Rutgers women. That was crazy. High school football championships, Little League World Series. We had those 2 teams from Toms River go to the Little League World Series 100 years. That was awesome. But that means travel. That means nights and weekends. It means holidays. It means birthdays. It means working until midnight on Tuesday, but being back in the shop at 8 o'clock on Wednesday, plus the commute. So you're kind of huffing and puffing, but you understand. What did you say? Did you say, yeah, I'm not going to do my class thing?
Oh, yeah.
Busted. Take my class, you'll find out why that's a problem. But anyway, so you really need people that can support you. You need family that can support you. You need friends that can support you. I mean, I've been divorced once. My first wife loved sports, but she worked 9 to 5. And when did I work? Nights and weekends, or I'd work 6 days in a row. I had a stretch when I was in Boston. I saved the calendar. I have it someplace. I worked 29 out of 31 days. And then on that 30th day, she'd expect you to come visit. And I'm like, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to do laundry. And you don't love me. And then you start getting that stuff. So you need someone that can put up with it. Fortunately, current Mrs. Falkowski worked in television. And while she doesn't necessarily like some of the travel that I had to put up with, like in 2003, we had the Nets and the Devils go to the finals. So I was banging all over the country that spring from April to June. It was nonstop. I went to Boston. I went to Tampa, I went to Ottawa, I went to Detroit, and then I went to Anaheim twice in 7 days, back and forth. And they were getting me ready to go to San Antonio, had the Nets won game 6 in San Antonio in the finals. And I was praying, like, I don't want to go back. I can't fly into the plane. I can't do it. And it's the only time I think I ever asked God to solve a sports problem. I prayed. I said, if you could spare me the trip and let them lose. And then San Antonio went on a 19-0 run and put the Nets to bed. And I said, thank you, Lord. I was safe. I could sleep in the next day instead of flying to Texas. My God. So that's really part of it. And there's also, the pay's not good a lot of times, or you have to start in a small market. And I've got a friend of mine. I've known her since she was in high school. She went to North Dakota, and now she is in Oregon. And the whole idea is to kind of work her way back to the East Coast. That's how crazy. So you ready to pack a bag and go? Are you ready to leave relationships behind to do this for $35,000 a year to start? Are you ready to, I mean, it's so dangerous now for reporters. I mean, never mind with what's going on with the riots and stuff and how dangerous it is. I mean, we've seen many journalists getting injured, but in the past 4 or 5 years, journalists have become targets. You know, people run up and hit you in the head. There was a guy that shot a reporter and her photographer down in Virginia a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of that, but you know what? Part of that's it's the rush you get from it. You know, it's the rush. It's you're on the cutting edge. You're the one telling the story. If you're not actually playing in the game, you're the one at the game. You're in the dressing room, in the locker room with the players after the game. If you're covering politics, you're at the campaign. You're there when it happens. And if you like that and you like the pressure of live TV and getting it done, you got to do it right the first time. There's nothing like it. So just know, and you know this, I warned all of you that there's another side to this. So if you're going to do it, I always say it's like the scales of justice. You sort of, is the benefits up here? Is the BS up here? Is it even? But when the BS gets too high, it's time to find something else to do. So, but it's been a lot of fun. I mean, right now, like I'm sitting home during the summer because my classes were canceled and my TV job went away. But would I trade it? Would I go back and change it? No.
Right.
Getting paid to chase one of these around, it's not a bad thing.
It does seem a lot of fun, like a lot of fun.
It's not for everybody.
Right. Well, thank you again, George, for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming to my show. I'm sure my viewers will enjoy the interview as well.
Anytime.
Thank you. It's been an awesome experience and an inspiration for not only me, but for the viewers as well.
Hope so.
Yes. So there you go, guys. That was George Falkowski signing out with Kicking It with Blair. Please remember to subscribe, like, comment, and let me know what you guys would like to see and hear, because not only do Blair truly care, Blair truly shares. Bye, guys.
Oh, I love that.